Not everyone who smiles at you is a friend, and not everyone who speaks gently truly cares. In the real world, manipulation rarely shows up in obvious forms. Instead, it hides behind soft-spoken phrases that sound reasonable, even caring. But beneath those words lies a quiet intention to control, influence, or even distort the way you see yourself. Manipulators don't always yell or demand. In fact, they often play a subtler psychological game. They use words that seem neutral, sometimes even supportive. But if you're not careful, you begin to second-guess your own choices. You start feeling guilty for no clear reason. Or you find yourself explaining things that shouldn't need justification. And it all begins with a single sentence you thought was harmless. You're too sensitive. I was just joking. The subtle sentence that masks control. On the surface, this phrase seems harmless. Just a joke, nothing serious. But for those with a discerning eye, it's not a joke at all. It's one of the most common tools used by manipulators, disguising insults, passive aggression, or emotional jabs as humor, then blaming you for reacting. It's not about comedy, it's about control. When someone says, "You're too sensitive," I was just joking, they're not trying to connect or bring joy. They're trying to blur emotional boundaries. They make a hurtful remark, and when you express discomfort, they flip the script. Now you're the problem, for feeling too much, for caring too deeply, for defending yourself. This tactic is a form of soft gaslighting. It's designed to make you second-guess your own instincts. You start to wonder, was I overreacting? Am I really too sensitive? Over time, this doubt chips away at your self-trust and makes you easier to control. From a Stoic point of view, emotional clarity is sacred. Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus taught us to stay calm and centered, but not blind. Stoicism is not about suppressing feelings or tolerating disrespect. It's about understanding them clearly, then choosing a wise response. When someone crosses your boundaries and hides behind humor, a Stoic doesn't explode, but neither do they accept the lie. The manipulator's goal is to reframe cruelty as comedy. They make it seem like you're the one with the issue for feeling hurt. But true humor doesn't rely on belittling others. True relationships don't make you feel small for having a heart. The real danger, when you start believing them, when you begin to apologize for feeling anything at all, when you silence yourself just to keep the peace, at that point they no longer have to control you. You do it to yourself. A Stoic would see this trap and choose differently. They'd acknowledge the emotion, not react impulsively, but quietly draw a boundary. They'd know. A joke that hurts isn't a joke, it's a mask. And no truth-seeking person should let a mask dictate their reality. Reflection. If a joke needs your silence to survive, it was never a joke. It was a weapon. Reflect. Are you truly being too sensitive? Or are you being trained to feel ashamed of normal emotions? A wise person honors their perception, sets clear boundaries, and walks away from those who confuse laughter with control. Peace is not about smiling through pain, it's about knowing what and who to walk away from. 2. If you loved me, you'd do what I say. Emotional blackmail disguised as love. This sentence may sound romantic at first glance, even innocent, but beneath the surface, it's emotional blackmail wrapped in soft language. It turns love into a tool for manipulation. When someone says, "If you love me, you do what I say," they're not asking for love, they're demanding obedience. They are redefining love not as mutual understanding or respect, but as submission. In Stoic philosophy, love is never about control. It is rooted in reason, virtue, and mutual respect. Love, according to Stoics like Epictetus, is a reflection of inner freedom, not a demand to abandon it. But this phrase seeks to invert that truth. It asks you to prove your love not through understanding, but through compliance. The manipulator behind this sentence plays on your guilt and emotional vulnerability. They set up a false equivalence. Love equals obedience. And when you hesitate because something feels off, unfair, or even wrong, they accuse you of not loving them enough. You begin to doubt your own moral compass, fearing that saying no makes you cold or selfish. Slowly, your voice disappears. Over time, this mindset erodes your autonomy. You may find yourself constantly giving in, not out of love, but out of fear. Fear of being misunderstood, fear of conflict, fear of being labeled unloving. That's not affection, that's quiet captivity. And the longer you stay in this trap, the more you internalize the idea that your boundaries are barriers to love, instead of a necessary part of it. A Stoic would never equate love with submission. They understand that true love respects choice, allows disagreement, and honors individual freedom. Stoics are not cold, they're clear. They know that love without freedom is not love at all. It's a cage with silk bars. When someone uses this sentence, they reveal a deep insecurity masked as affection. They don't trust that love can survive disagreement, so they resort to pressure. But real love is not fragile. It doesn't need ultimatums. It grows through shared values, not forced obedience. If you must abandon your will to prove love, then what's being asked of you is not love, it's control. And that is exactly what Stoicism warns against. Losing yourself to someone else's emotions, expectations, or manipulations. Reflection. Love that demands your silence is not love. It's fear dressed as affection. Ask yourself, are you loving freely, or are you being tested constantly? A Stoic protects their peace not by rejecting love, but by refusing to let love become a bargaining chip. True connection thrives in freedom. If someone asks for your soul as proof of loyalty, they're not building a bond, they're building a prison. 3. I just want what's best for you, when concern becomes control in disguise. At first glance, this sentence sounds noble, even caring. It's a phrase often uttered by people who claim to love us, parents, partners, friends, or mentors. I just want what's best for you. It seems harmless, even protective. But when used manipulatively, it becomes a subtle weapon of control, hiding behind a mask of affection. This phrase becomes problematic when it's not about your definition of best, but theirs. When someone insists they know what's best for you and uses that claim to override your choices, dismiss your feelings, or steer your life against your will, they are not loving you. They are managing you. In truth, they may not trust you to live your own life. And that's not concern. That's fear disguised as love. From a Stoic perspective, each person is responsible for their own path, their own judgment, and their own growth. Marcus Aurelius reminds us that the best life is the one lived in accordance with reason and virtue, not one dictated by another's fears or ambitions. When someone says, I just want what's best for you, but refuses to listen to your voice, they are replacing your reason with their own. That is the beginning of emotional imprisonment. Manipulators often use this phrase to justify intrusion, controlling your career choices, your relationships, your decisions, even your thoughts. Don't date that person. Don't pursue that job. Don't move to that city, all wrapped in the silk of care. But true care honors autonomy. It offers support, not pressure. It gives insight, not commands. It helps you think, without demanding you obey. This sentence, when misused, plays on your desire to be loved and guided. It makes you feel guilty for asserting independence. It suggests that if you resist their version of what's best, you are ungrateful or immature. But maturity is not about obedience. It's about the courage to live with your own decisions, even when they come with risk. Stoicism teaches us that growth comes through facing life directly, not through someone else's sheltering. The role of a wise friend or mentor is not to sculpt your life in their image, but to help you become your own sculptor. Interference that pretends to be love is still interference. You must ask, do they want what's best for me or what's most comfortable for them? Because sometimes those two things are very different. Reflection. He who truly cares will guide, not govern. Support, not suppress. If they cannot love you without control, it is not love. It is fear of letting go. Freedom is the soul of personal growth. A Stoic honors advice but owns their path. Be wary of those who speak of love, yet fear your independence. The best for you is not always the safest, the easiest, or the most approved. It is what aligns with your reason, virtue, and inner peace. 4. You misunderstood me. I never said that. Gaslighting disguised as clarification. At first, this statement sounds like a genuine attempt to clear up confusion. But when used manipulatively, it becomes one of the most dangerous tools in the arsenal of a manipulator. You misunderstood me. I never said that. This sentence isn't always about communication. It's often about distortion. When repeated often enough, it starts to make you question not only your memory, but your very ability to perceive reality accurately. This is a classic example of gaslighting, a psychological tactic where the manipulator makes you doubt your own version of events. You remember what was said. You recall the tone, the context, the emotion, but suddenly you're told it never happened, or worse, that you're imagining things. Over time, you begin to silence your instincts, defer your memory, and rely on the manipulator's version of reality instead of your own. That is the moment you start to lose yourself. In Stoic philosophy, clarity of perception is everything. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If someone is able to show me that what I think or do is not right, I will happily change, for I seek the truth, by which no one was ever truly harmed." But the truth must be grounded in reality, not in shifting stories. A Stoic accepts correction when they are truly wrong, but also trusts in their own reason, senses, and experience. Manipulators who use "you misunderstood me" are often avoiding accountability. They use vagueness as a defense mechanism. They speak in half-truths and then later deny their implications. If challenged, they backpedal. If cornered, they gaslight. Their goal isn't mutual understanding, it's evasion. They don't want to be seen clearly because clarity threatens their control. When this tactic becomes routine, it's not just about one incident, it becomes a pattern. You start to feel crazy, confused, emotionally unstable. And worst of all, they may say things like, "Why do you always overreact?" Or, "You're too sensitive," reinforcing the illusion that the problem is you. Meanwhile, they get to walk away clean, unaccountable, and in control of the narrative. Stoicism teaches us to anchor ourselves in truth, not in people's shifting moods or memories. We are responsible for our own mind, but we are not obligated to tolerate environments where truth is deliberately blurred. Recognizing manipulation is not weakness, it is wisdom. So when someone keeps rewriting history to serve their comfort and not your clarity, you must learn to walk away, not with anger, but with composure. Reflection. To question your memory once is human. To make you doubt it constantly is control. A Stoic does not chase the approval of someone who refuses to speak plainly. They seek truth over harmony and integrity over emotional illusion. If someone regularly distorts the truth and makes you feel small for holding on to it, they are not clearing confusion. They are building a cage made of self-doubt. Trust your reason, trust your clarity, and protect your peace like a sacred flame. 5. No one else complains like you do. The manipulative power of comparison. This seemingly casual statement, "no one else complains like you do," may sound like simple feedback, but in the mouth of a manipulator, it's anything but simple. It's a comparison designed to invalidate your emotions, question your standards, and subtly pressure you into silence. This phrase isn't just about you. It invokes the imaginary approval of everyone else. It suggests that your concerns are unusual, unnecessary, or even selfish. The goal? To isolate you emotionally, to make you believe that your sense of injustice is exaggerated, that you're difficult or overly critical. It turns your reasonable discomfort into a character flaw. In many cases, this tactic is used in relationships, workplaces, or families where certain behaviors have become normalized, sometimes even toxic. Instead of addressing the issue, the manipulator shifts the focus to your reaction. They frame your voice as the problem, not their actions. The phrase becomes a silencer, cloaked in group consensus. Why can't you be more like the others? It's conformity disguised as reason. From a Stoic perspective, this tactic violates the essence of personal agency and reason. Epictetus teaches us to judge things as they are, not based on how others perceive them. The fact that others tolerate something does not make it right. The crowd is not always wise, often it's indifferent or fearful. A Stoic doesn't take their moral compass from the consensus of the passive, but from the stillness of inner clarity. When someone says, "No one else complains like you do," ask yourself, is that because others are truly at peace, or have they been silenced long ago? Are they unaware, indifferent, or just too exhausted to speak? Sometimes the one who complains is not the weakest link, but the strongest voice of truth in a room full of resignation. The manipulator's comparison is meant to make you shrink, but you must learn not to compare yourself with the silent majority, especially if that silence is born from fear, fatigue, or false peace. Speak not because it is popular, but because it is right. When you're the only one speaking up, you're not always the problem. Sometimes you're just the first one brave enough to name it. Reflection. Just because others tolerate it doesn't mean you must. Silence may be common, but courage is rare. In a Stoic life, integrity often means standing alone. The fact that you're the only one complaining doesn't make you wrong. It might mean you still have the strength to care. Don't let comparison rob you of clarity. Truth is not determined by numbers, but by virtue. Speak with calm, stand with reason, and walk away when your voice is being weaponized against you. 6. You should be grateful I still care. When kindness becomes a tool of control. At first glance, this sentence seems to carry the weight of love, patience, or loyalty. But beneath the surface, "You should be grateful I still care," is often not about genuine affection. It's about control wrapped in guilt. This statement doesn't offer kindness freely. It turns kindness into a burden you're expected to repay, usually through silence, compliance, or emotional submission. This phrase is a form of emotional blackmail. It positions the manipulator as a noble figure, someone who has gone above and beyond for you. And because of that, you now owe them your obedience, your forgiveness, or worse, your tolerance of harmful behavior. In this scenario, love is no longer love. It becomes currency. Help is no longer help. It becomes leverage. And concern is no longer care. It becomes a chain. What makes this tactic so effective and dangerous is that it plays on one of our deepest human instincts, the desire to be appreciated. No one wants to seem ungrateful. So we begin to second-guess our boundaries. We start to feel guilty for wanting more, for setting limits, or even for expressing discomfort. The manipulator doesn't need to raise their voice. This one sentence is enough to silence you with guilt. From a Stoic perspective, this manipulation is profoundly unvirtuous. True care, according to Stoicism, must be offered without expectation of control. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one. Goodness doesn't demand praise. Virtue is its own reward. Stoics also understand the difference between what is given freely and what is used to dominate. If someone uses their so-called care to keep you small, quiet, or indebted, they are not helping you grow. They are helping themselves feel powerful. That is not virtue. That is emotional taxation. In healthy relationships, be it romantic, familial, or professional, care is mutual and unconditional. It uplifts. It does not weigh down. It respects autonomy. It does not bargain with it. And most importantly, it recognizes that gratitude is voluntary, not demanded. So the next time someone says, "You should be grateful I still care," ask yourself, is this care or control dressed as concern? Reflection. Gratitude cannot be forced, and love is not a favor, it's a virtue. A Stoic gives and receives with dignity, not with guilt. Beware of those who use kindness as a tool to keep you in debt. If someone demands your silence or obedience in exchange for their care, what they're offering is not love, it's a leash. Real concern empowers you. It doesn't imprison you. Walk with those who lift you freely, not those who remind you of the weight you owe. 7. You made me this way. The manipulator's way of escaping responsibility. At first, "you made me this way" sounds like a desperate plea for understanding. It might even sound like vulnerability. But in the hands of a manipulator, this phrase becomes a sharp deflection of accountability. Instead of owning up to their behavior, they place the blame squarely on your shoulders. Suddenly, their anger, coldness, dishonesty, or even abuse is not their fault. It's your doing. This tactic is as old as emotional manipulation itself. It's a strategy to disarm your defenses and flip the narrative. You're no longer dealing with someone who wronged you. You're cast as the villain in their story. They hurt you, but now you're apologizing. They explode with rage, but somehow you end up feeling guilty. You begin to wonder, did I really push them to act this way? Am I the toxic one? That's the power of this phrase. It erodes your confidence in your own judgment. It keeps you walking on eggshells, carefully adjusting your behavior in the hope that they'll finally change. But the truth is harsh and simple. You are not responsible for how someone else chooses to act. Everyone is responsible for their own emotions and actions. The Stoics teach us that our power lies in our response. As Epictetus famously said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." No matter how challenging a situation becomes, we still have agency. A Stoic does not say, "You made me angry." Instead, they reflect and say, "I allowed myself to become angry." When someone says, "You made me this way," they are denying that inner agency. They are refusing to look in the mirror and instead holding it up to you. It is an immature reaction that stalls emotional growth and corrodes relationships. Worse, it places the burden of healing entirely on your shoulders, while they do nothing. In healthy dynamics, both people take responsibility for their reactions. They don't use each other's flaws to justify poor choices. They communicate openly, process their own emotions, and move forward with clarity. That is growth. That is virtue. If someone constantly blames you for the person they've become, they are not evolving. They're escaping. And you can't build a future with someone who refuses to own their present. Reflection. Blame is easy. Responsibility is rare. The wise do not say, "You made me this way." They say, "This is who I choose to be." A Stoic understands that our reactions are our own. Even in the face of injustice or pain, we do not surrender our power by blaming others. To grow is to take full ownership of our thoughts, our emotions, and our actions. Anyone who refuses to do that is not only rejecting Stoicism, They are rejecting maturity. Let people own their path, and you walk yours with dignity. 8. I never forced you, you just thought that way. Gaslighting disguised as denial. This phrase might sound like a clarification or even an attempt to clear up a misunderstanding, but make no mistake, I never forced you, you just thought that way is often a subtle weapon used by manipulators to erase your perception of reality. It is a form of gaslighting, a psychological tactic where the manipulator rewrites events to make you question your own judgment, emotions, and memory. On the surface, this sentence seems like it promotes mutual understanding, but underneath, it's a sharp twist of logic. It's saying, I didn't pressure you, you just misunderstood me. This deflects all responsibility and places the entire emotional weight on you. Now, you're not only dealing with the effects of their pressure, you're also blamed for feeling pressured in the first place. This tactic is especially damaging because it preys on your tendency to doubt yourself. It creates a loop where you begin to second-guess your instincts. You replay conversations over and over. You wonder if you were too sensitive, too reactive, too dramatic. And before you know it, your own sense of truth is blurred. In Stoic thought, truth is a cornerstone of inner peace. A Stoic learns to perceive reality as it is, not as others frame it. Epictetus reminds us that the chief task in life is simply this: to identify and separate matters so that I can say clearly to myself what is external and not under my control, and what has to do with the choices I actually control. Gaslighting clouds that clarity. It pushes you to internalize guilt for emotions that were rational responses to manipulation. It reframes dominance as innocence and your resistance as irrationality. The result? You stay silent, accept behavior you once questioned, and feel more isolated from your own truth. When someone consistently says things like, "That's just how you interpreted it," or "You're overthinking," they're not engaging in honest communication. They're subtly controlling your reality, making you believe that your discomfort is a fabrication. But discomfort is data, and your instincts often see red flags before your mind can explain them. Healthy people don't need to convince you that your feelings are wrong. They create space for your emotions to exist. Even when they disagree, they listen, they validate, they grow. Manipulators, on the other hand, prefer to confuse, so they can continue to influence without opposition. Reflection. When someone denies your reality, they are not seeking peace. They are preserving control. A Stoic does not silence their inner compass for the comfort of another. Let people say what they will, but remain anchored in what you know to be true. If your boundaries are constantly dismissed, you are not in a conversation. You are in a silent battle for ownership of your own mind. Choose clarity over confusion, and never let guilt override your truth. 9. Don't tell anyone, okay? When secrecy becomes a tool for control. At first glance, the phrase, "don't tell anyone, okay?" may appear innocent, even intimate. It's often whispered with a tone that suggests trust, confidentiality, or emotional closeness. But when used manipulatively, this simple sentence can become a chain that ties your voice, isolates your judgment, and quietly locks you inside someone else's agenda. In toxic dynamics, this phrase is not a request for privacy. It's a command disguised as loyalty. The manipulator doesn't want to protect something precious. They want to protect themselves from accountability. They transfer the burden of secrecy onto you while freeing themselves from any consequences. This is not about mutual respect. It's about emotional leverage. A Stoic understands the value of discretion, but also knows that truth should not be imprisoned by fear. When someone constantly makes you the keeper of secrets that make you uncomfortable, when they ask you to carry the weight of their actions in silence, they are not honoring you. They are using your silence as a shield to continue harmful behavior. These secrets often come wrapped in flattery. I only trust you with this. You're the only one I can talk to. You're not like the others. But behind these words is a strategy. Isolate you from others, bind you with emotional debt, and ensure you won't speak up, even when you know you should. This manipulation grows stronger in environments where truth is inconvenient. When lies are repeated often enough and dissent is punished with guilt or exclusion, silence becomes not just a habit, but a survival tactic. And over time, it erodes your inner peace because you're now complicit in something you didn't choose. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Never esteem anything as of advantage to you that will make you break your word or lose your self-respect." If keeping someone's secret forces you to violate your own sense of right and wrong, it is not a secret worth keeping. There's a stark difference between protecting someone's privacy and being pulled into their shadow. One honors boundaries, the other manipulates them. You don't owe silence to someone who uses secrets to hurt others or to avoid the natural consequences of their actions. And you certainly don't owe loyalty to someone who makes you the silent accomplice of something you cannot morally support. Reflection. If silence demands you betray yourself, it's not silence, it's surrender. A Stoic chooses integrity over comfort, truth over reputation, and peace over approval. Ask yourself, does this silence protect something good or conceal something harmful? The answer will tell you whether it's time to speak or stay quiet. Honor is not found in secrecy, but in the courage to live openly, even when the cost is high. 10. You won't make it without me. The illusion of dependency and the Stoic path to self-reliance. Few phrases cut as deeply and insidiously as, "You won't make it without me." On the surface, it may sound like concern or confidence, but beneath it lies a profound manipulation tactic, one rooted in control, fear, and a subtle undermining of your sense of autonomy. This phrase is designed not to support, but to weaken you. It plants a seed of doubt. It whispers to your subconscious, you are incomplete, you are incapable, you are dependent. In Stoic philosophy, the first duty of the individual is to reclaim ownership of their mind, their will, and their freedom. The moment someone tries to convince you that your value is conditional to their presence, they are not offering love. They are asserting dominance. What may begin as emotional support soon mutates into emotional imprisonment. A manipulator who utters this line does not see you as an equal partner in life's journey. They see you as a vessel to be steered, a satellite to orbit their ego. They may disguise their message in affection or cloak it in sacrifice. I've done everything for you. No one else would put up with you. After all, I gave up, and this is how you repay me? This is not love. This is bondage. Epictetus, the Stoic slave who rose to become one of history's greatest philosophers, taught that true freedom begins when you stop placing your worth in the hands of others. No external person, not a partner, a parent, a mentor, or a friend, should ever become the source of your identity or self-belief. If someone tells you that you are nothing without them, what they are really saying is that they are afraid of your potential without their interference. Ironically, the more you internalize this dependency, the more you begin to believe it. You second-guess your intuition. You hesitate to take steps alone. You fear the loneliness of independence, not realizing that solitude is often the soil where strength is born. A Stoic does not reject companionship, but they are never enslaved by it. They know that peace does not come from being needed or needing others, but from standing firm in their own inner citadel. When you hear, "You won't survive without me," remember that this is the cry of someone who fears your liberation, not your failure. The truth is, you were born whole. Others may walk beside you, but your path is your own. And you are capable of far more than those who fear your freedom want you to believe. Reflection. No one owns your strength but you. Anyone who claims otherwise fears losing their power, not your well-being. Walk gently with others, but carry your self-reliance like a sword. The greatest illusion of the manipulator is that your wings were theirs to give. In truth, they were always yours. You just had to remember how to fly. Knowing these 10 subtle phrases doesn't mean you have to become suspicious of everyone who speaks kindly, but it does mean you're building a mental shield, so you're not easily swayed by language that quietly chips away at your confidence. Healthy relationships are built on honest communication and mutual respect, not guilt-tripping disguised as concern. You have the right to say no. You have the right to feel enough. And you absolutely have the right to protect your mind from toxic influence, even when it comes from someone close. By recognizing these manipulative patterns, you're not just defending your peace, you're reclaiming your emotional freedom.